everybody. Welcome to another episode of Nerds with Friends. My name is Cody Leach, and as always, I'm joined by Christian Garcia.
Buenos.
Buenos. We're back. Sorry, last week's episode didn't come out. There were some issues with the audio, and it was a good one.
It was a good one.
Yeah.
Actually, I really like that one too.
Yeah, we had a good time.
Yeah.
We had our friend Fabienne on talking Mandalorian. And so we will talk a little bit of Mandalorian today, but we thought we'd do a fun kind of state of Star Wars episode where we talk a little bit about how Star Wars is right now. Is it in a good place? Does the future look bright, or does the future look like it's going to fall to the dark side? There's been a lot of news recently and a lot of Star Wars content coming out. Not only The Mandalorian, but the Jedi Survivor game is out now. We figured it was a good time to kind of touch base and see if we like where Star Wars is at. So we did all that after our little break. Before we do that, though, we should say that we just, on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, was our 10-year anniversary of starting Nerds with Friends, Christian.
See?
Been doing this a long time.
Yeah. We just hit 2 digits.
Yeah, I know. The show obviously looks, it looks like something because we're doing video now. And it's definitely different than what it started out as, but I think, at its core, it's still us talking about nerdy shit.
Yeah. Well, we don't have Brian.
Seamus. Yeah, it's just you and me. But it's definitely evolved too. So, I think since we started, we've definitely started doing more like guests and stuff, which I think is really fun.
Fucking Brian had a whole human being in another country.
A small child now. Yeah, and he lives in Japan.
So it was so many miracles. He did it in another country.
He had sex with a lady.
Yeah, someone allowed him to be inside them.
That's crazy.
It's fucking nuts.
Yeah. But we're very happy for the former nerds that are off in the world doing their own thing.
He made a whole new nerd, is what he did.
True. That's true. Yep, she's a little nerd, just like him. But yeah, super fun. I'm excited to get back into doing the show. We'll try to get back to a weekly basis. Full disclosure, it's just been tough because I started a new job. Christian's really busy with various banks shutting down, global economies in the shitter. So we will do our best to come back out every week. But, if it's every other week, thanks for liking and subscribing. We appreciate that. And it'll be just that much better because we've had that much more time to think about it. And we won't be talking Guardians of the Galaxy because I haven't seen it yet. I am seeing it tomorrow, though. So I'm very, very excited for that. And my hair looks crazy because I went disc golfing this morning. And I was laying down when Christian was like, hey, let's do the podcast. I was like, fuck, I forgot. So thank you guys for bearing with us, liking and subscribing. We do appreciate it. Make sure to check out nerdswithfriendspodcast.com for all the info. And then also make sure to do the patreon.com/nerdswithfriends. Ooh, I forgot about my little app thing. How did I do that? Do we remember? Was it whiteboards?
App thing?
Yeah, I remember when last time we did this, I was like, I had little things on the side.
The scrolling and the...
Yeah. How did I do that?
I don't know. In front of you.
I think I figured it out. I think it was called this. But yeah, so the real professional show we got here. But let's start the show off like we always do with some nerdy confessions. Confessions. Christian, what's your nerdy confession?
Actually, I wasn't gonna go into details about Guardians, but I was gonna say that I watched it. But I could switch it. No big dealio. My other nerdy confession is so since me and Cody started playing Magic, I've been spending way too much money on Magic cards. But since March of the Machines, I haven't bought since that box we shared. I haven't bought anything.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, so and one of the things is because I know, well, the next one besides the in between Lord of the Rings and March of the Machines, I think it was called Aftershock or
Yeah,
something.
it's March of the Machines Aftermath. It's
Aftermath.
like a
So
weird in between set.
I didn't touch any of those or soon to be any of those, but it's only because I know I'm going to go really hard
Gonna
on
go
Lord of the Rings.
hard.
So,
Gonna go so hard.
so I know I haven't touched it. We were even talking about like so every Saturday, for the most part, every Saturday we have a Magic game going on. And yesterday we were playing.
How do I get rid of this now?
I was telling Cody, I was like, if we split boxes, like, what if we split it and we got the one ring? Like, what the
Oh
fuck
yeah.
would we do? Like, we share custody, we sell it. Like, what would we do? I wouldn't even know. Like, then like, what would it be priced at? There's no price comparison to a one of
Yeah. Yeah. So for the we went over it in our we did an episode, I think, where we talked about Lord of the Rings, Magic the Gathering set. But for those of you who don't remember, there is one thing they've been doing with Magic the Gathering lately is doing serialized cards, right? I think we first saw that in Brothers War was when we first saw it. And what it is, you'll get a card, and on the artwork it'll say like 1 of 500 or 35 of 700. It'll have a serialized number on it. So that one is very specific. Technically, that's like the only number 75 of whatever that there is. And so what they're doing with the Lord of the Rings, they are also doing that. Primarily, they're doing they're doing limited edition versions of Soul Ring, where for the in Lord of the Rings there was 3 rings of power for the elves. Was there 7 for the dwarves? 5 for the dwarves,
7 for the dwarves,
like the
9
seven
for the
dwarves.
humans,
J.R.
and
Tolkien
3
just
for.
fucking throwing the Snow White and 7 dwarves in there. And then
You
9
know that never even fucking crossed my mind until you said that. So that's
and then 9 for the humans, which are the Nazgul, right? And so they're doing 7,000, or I'm sorry, 9,000, 7,000, and 3,000 of those, and then they're doing 900, 500, or 900, 700, and 300 of shiny versions of those. And then, but the most rare card in this whole set is a 1 of 1 the One Ring printing, and it's all in the dark speech. All the text, it's not even in English, it's all in the dark speech. And there's only one, and it's in a random collector's booster pack. Um, so yeah, it's who knows how much it's going to cost, right? It's going to be
And I've heard people joke around on Twitter, and even our friend Fabian said, like, "Oh, if we get it, like, we're gonna take it to a volcano and dump it in there." I was like, I'm gonna stop you, like for
yeah.
sure. I will be fucking Gollum there.
Why should I do this?
Yeah,
Why should I give it up?
like
It's
no,
mine, my own, my
it's
precious.
like I will pay for an amazing proxy for this gag, but you're not
Yeah,
throwing the one card.
100%. I'm sure there's proxy sites already out there who've taken the file and made it. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, like my goal is like if we get it, I'm going to approach Post Malone and try to sell it to him, and whatever dollar amount he offers, I'll undercut him and be like, okay, I'll give it less as long as I can come hang out with you and we can be best friends.
Yeah. Just hop on the show every other episode. And we play Magic. Like, that's it.
Yeah, I just want to play Magic with you for a full day, and then like in the afternoon we can maybe write a song together. That might be your next hit song. So that would be cool. But yeah, man, I'm excited for that set. I'm gonna spend an embarrassing amount of money on it
I know I'm gonna do the full set. Like I know I want to, but that doesn't come out right away. But I know I'm gonna end up getting a
if they
full
even
set.
offer it.
I don't see why they wouldn't. Someone would, I'm sure, would probably piece it together.
I
And
wonder
like, and
how
when we
much do
said
those full sets cost?
that they're not, I mean, depending on the set, right? Because there's going to be certain cards that are going to be worth a lot. I mean, you can do like a
So
set that doesn't have
is that what
amazing.
they do? They just charge you the wholesale price for.
per each card.
each individual card?
I believe it's like 280, between like 280 to 320, I think, for a full set of something. Which I'm gonna want every card, but I'm gonna end up getting boxes anyway because man, gotta chase that dragon. Gotta get that serotonin fix of open cracking
Yeah.
packs and stuff. So um but like, and we were talking about the One Ring, like, even though there's going to be one of one with Dark Speech, that card is still going to be in the set. It's just going to be in English. It's not going to be Shiny Boy.
So
And
to give you an idea, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty complete set is $300.
yeah, and like, I mean, I'm good.
Kaldheim 319, Eldritch Moon 550.
Like, again, I said, it depends on the cards. Some
Yeah.
cards are going to be worth more.
Oh yeah. Some of these are these are all prices from Card Kingdom. And older sets, I don't even know. Like Guild Pack complete foil set is $1,300.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Ooh.
No thanks.
Yeah, pretty.
Those are Post Malone prices. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely a cool way to go. It's like, oh my god, eighth edition complete foil says $3,000.
And I
Dude,
know I'm gonna get every commander pack, even though I probably will never play as any of the villains, but just to have them. So
seventh edition is $30,000. What cards came out in seventh edition? Dear God.
a lot of repeats of 6 and 5 and 4.
Yeah, maybe it's like maybe there's I don't know. There couldn't have been dual lands because they haven't reprinted those. I don't know. It's got to be something expensive for sure. I think that's an interesting way of doing it. Like I do like the fun of opening a booster pack. Like the other day, I bought a booster pack. I sent you a picture. I pulled a Force of Will, which is a $100 card. Um, and there's something fun about that. It's that gambling part of the brain that
Yeah,
really like, oh, look, I hit a jackpot. And it like helps justify everything else that you
dude.
do.
Well, there's that YouTube guy. I don't remember his channel, but like where he had bought some packs, some of the older packs, and he's opened them, and he had a Black Lotus in there, man, and it looked brand spanking new.
Ooh.
And he was like, his hand was like shaking as he was like holding it. Like, dude, I would have like dropped it right away on something and like go get like some
Yeah.
gloves. Like,
Yeah, your cat would have come up and bitten a chunk out of it.
yeah, like I love you guys, but now you're dead.
And then Christian, I would have had to murder that cat.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have liked it, but I would have had to. Spit it back up. Yeah, there's definitely a fun part about opening packs up, but I get it. The full set would be pretty cool to have. I wonder how much it's going to be though, because the prices of those boxes are already expensive.
which is crazy, right? I mean that part is insane. Like those boxes and the commander packs have been marked up than your regular decks, and
Well,
they know it's because people are gonna be willing to pay for it, but it sucks, man. Like, it shouldn't be that way. I get it for resellers, because you know
right. Well,
they're
I think
garbage people and that's what they do to make money. But
sure.
as a company, it should be a standard set price.
Well,
Like,
here's the thing that this is maybe more into the weeds with nerds out there who are really into Magic the Gathering, but the thing with Wizard of the Coast is now they've taken away MSRP or manufacturer suggested retail pricing for Magic the Gathering. So there is no like this is what it costs. Any retailer can sell it for any price they want, essentially, which in one sense is good for some retailers, right? Because if you're a small time shop, if you charge an extra 5%, that could help you keep the doors open, and that's okay. But if you're a big company like Card Kingdom or TCG Player or whoever, like you can afford to undercut the little guys and make yourself more money. Like that, there's a Card Shop Live, which is formerly Channel Fireball, I think, is uh one of those companies. They're big enough where they can like afford to undercut everyone by $10 to $15. And for some people, that's enough. Like these, they're not cheap; they're expensive products. So um, saving a couple bucks on it might be enough to convince you to buy it from there. So that's why we always like to say on the show, support your local game store as much as possible. But yeah,
Unless the employees are rude, then you can support a different case.
yeah, support the game store that's good to you. You know what I mean? That's why for me now, I'm a Versus Games of San Francisco convert. Those guys, they're always super helpful. And now I'm a Dreadnought member, which means I pay monthly to get discounts, and it's already paid for itself. So
I just wish they weren't so far, man. Like now, granted, San Francisco, not a big town, it's not a
yeah,
big city,
yeah,
but certain areas with certain traffic, with certain parking, just makes it so much fucking longer to get there. That's the only downside of that place is that it's out in the avenues and parking sucks. So
yeah. The parking does kind of suck over there. And it's not a big deal, but they still make you wear face masks there, even though COVID's not real. Everyone knows that. But
yeah, Cody is originally from Florida. If no one knew him,
yeah, I'm a Florida man in my core. But yeah, the cool thing about them too is they got old stuff, and they charge appropriately, I think, for the different sets that they have and stuff. But the availability is really really awesome. So
they're
we
also
got
very knowledgeable. They'll ask you like, what are you looking for? Is there something you're looking for? And it's not like one of those like certain big retail shops. Like you go in, hey, is there something you're looking for? And they really don't care. It's just their job. They're asking. Like, now they're really asking. Like, what can I help you
yeah.
find?
Yeah, like one time I was like, "Hey, what set did these come out in?" And they're like, "Oh, let me look up." Burp, 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 burp. And then they're like, "Oh yeah, we might have some of those," and they look it up for you. Very helpful guys. They also got, they have Warhammer and board games and stuff there too. And it's always jam packed as far as people playing there. So maybe we've got to do that someday. We've got to do a draft event or something like that at a game store. I think that would be fun. Give it the old college
I
try.
don't know about draft, but I'd be down for Commander. So a set I've been playing with for a while, and I'm comfortable with.
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
I'll probably lose, but I want to have a good time. At least while I'm doing it.
yeah. Bring one of your decks that you know fairly well and play a couple pickup games. I think that would be fun. All right. Well, my nerdy confession is computer related, seeing as we're doing this on the old Zoom this
You got a
time.
new keyboard.
No, I didn't get a new keyboard, though I am shopping for one. I really want one for work because I do all my work now on a laptop, and I already brought one of my old like gaming mice, the one that actually came with this PC. But so that's cool, but I need a new keyboard too. So that's on the shopping list. But no, so it's been kind of a fun adventure this year. I bought a gaming PC and a gaming keyboard, and been starting to dip my toes into PC computer gaming. And one thing I bought a pre-built PC, and I was starting to. I mean, it wasn't drastic, but I went and bought a new monitor that could have higher frame rate on it, and a higher definition. And I was just like, oh, I think the graphics card that's in my PC now isn't really capable of keeping up with this new monitor. So I went out and I bought a new graphics card and installed it, and a hard drive as well, and installed it all myself. And that's a nerve-wracking like experience for sure. um so I bought the gigabyte Nvidia 470 Ti graphics card for anyone who out there who's a PC player, which is about a $900 graphics card. And it's funny because I sent pictures to my other PC friends who have helped me through this whole process, and like my old graphics card was like this big. This new one is like this big honking thing, and it like barely fit in my computer case. And it's just like you don't want to drop it. You don't want to like mess up your motherboard. I definitely like snapped off a little bracket that like clicks it in there. So, I mean, it's fine because my PC just sits here, but who knows?
No, no jolts, no shakes. It's
Yeah,
gonna.
yeah, I'm definitely not picking this thing up and bringing it anywhere. But I mean, I will say, uh, we'll talk a little bit about the Jedi Survivor game in a little bit, but playing that game, it's like night and day. Like, before my settings were all on like high, like graphics, like, pretty high, like shadows and textures and things like that. Now it's all on epic and I got ray tracing on. And when I was getting like, 70 frames a second before, which frames per second is really where you notice a huge difference on PC because the PS5 itself, as long as you have a 4K TV that has HDMI 2.1, the PS5 can get up to 60 frames a second. I'm sorry, it can get up to 120 frames. Is it 120 frames? Now I'm uh second guessing myself. But basically, let me let me just look it up so I make sure I have the right thing. But frames per second is essentially how smooth action and motion is. Okay, so the PS5 is capable of going up to 420 frames per second. You got to have the HDMI 2.1, so it's got to be a newer TV, which only newer 4K TVs have that. But here's the problem with the PS5: is the PS5 is it can normally do like what do they call it, performance or quality mode.
Yeah,
Performance
quality
gives
of
you
it.
higher frame rate. Quality gives you higher definition, but lower frame rate, right? So, which is kind of, I mean, it kind of sucks because originally the PS5 was coded like 4K, 120 frames a second. And everyone's like, oh shit, this is going to be awesome. And then every single game that has come out is like, no, it's 4K or 120 frames a second. And so that's always been kind of a bummer. But now with this new graphics card, I don't really have to choose. Now my monitor only goes up to 1440p, which is higher than 1080p and not quite 4K. But I can get up to like I spike at like 140 frames a second on it. And it also does like ray tracing and all that stuff too. So it's looking pretty sweet on that game, man. And I don't know. It's still complicated and very expensive, obviously, but I've been enjoying the PC life. But there's something about the PS5 though, where you download a game and it just works instantly, and that's it. And PC is definitely not like that. Like I download the Jedi Survivor on Steam, and then it's like, oh, just kidding. To open it, first of all, it's so big I had to clean out files, which that happens on the PS5 also. But then I had to they're like, no, just kidding. To open it, you need to have the EA app. I'm like, okay, great. So I download the EA app, and then it's like log into EA. I'm like, I don't remember what my EA password is. It's like log in with Steam. I'm like, okay. So I do that, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna send you a 2-factor thing to your phone. I'm like, okay. Type that in. Then it's like, okay, now that you're in, we're gonna send another 2-factor authentication to your phone. I'm like, why? And then it sends it, and you click OK, and then it's like, okay, now you're linked. Now you can play the game. Just kidding. There's an update now. It's like, God damn, bro. I just really want to play this game now. And then there was like an update that caused all sorts of problems too. So it's not as easy as a console gaming, but when it works really well. So pretty exciting stuff. Pretty cool. All right. So we're going to take a quick little break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what is the state of Star Wars. Is Star Wars in a place where we want it to be? Or does it have a long road ahead of it? So we'll be right back. And we're back. All right. So there's been a lot of talk recently about Star Wars. Like we said, our unfortunately our Mandalorian episode kind of got some corrupted audio in it, so we weren't able to release that. But we will be talking spoilers for Mandalorian season 3, um, and maybe like the first, I don't know, couple hours of Jedi Survivor. So if you haven't played those or you're real sensitive to that, you might want to take a little break. But we kind of want to go over, you know, where Star Wars is at now, where it's headed, and whether or not that's a good thing. Because I don't think everyone's on the same page with where Star Wars is, right?
With Star Wars, what are you talking about? Star Wars fans are so united.
They're so
We
united. They all have
agree
the
on
same opinion.
everything.
They all love everything Star Wars. So let's talk briefly about Mandalorian season 3. We won't go into too much of it, but I think what a lot of people, it was a divisive season, right? We talked about how it overall the season felt kind of unfocused, right? That it got away from the episodic Grogu and Mando on adventures together every episode, right? And it became more of a like galaxy sprawling epic, setting up the future of the Star Wars universe in that time period, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there was so much we said last time with Fabs, but the gist of it is like for the most part we enjoyed it as a whole. There was obviously some things that could have been reworked, fixed, and there was a lot of fingers in the pie.
Hmm.
And I think if you just need to leave, yeah, you just got to leave the creatives to do their thing, like you let them go for seasons 1 and 2 and they were amazing,
Yeah.
and you should have just let them continue as is. But I think you're right. I think that they were trying to make it fit with everything else instead of just letting it be its own thing, which is I think what a lot of people fell in love with Mando from the beginning, because season 1 there was no Jedi.
Yeah.
There was no it wasn't tied to anything else. It was just a brand new start with a brand new character, and it was pretty cool. It didn't really tie much into anything, and then now it's kind of like, I would say it's been forced into the previous ones, but there was a lot of things inserted that I think, yeah, could have taken more time to do. Like one thing we talked about was how season 2 Grogu had gone with Luke to go train. And if you didn't watch Book of Boba, you wouldn't see how they reunited, because in season 3 they're together and then the adventures continue.
Right.
So if anyone who didn't watch Boba was just like, what happened? Like, what did I miss in between?
Right.
So yeah, I have hopes for the new season and the way it ended. I think it's going to go back to what we loved, and it'll continue going that way. So
Yeah. I think the reason why Mandalorian was successful from the get go is that, you know, obviously it takes place in the Star Wars universe. There's no denying that, right? But it wasn't a story about the Star Wars universe. It wasn't a story about the greater goings on in the galaxy. It was a story about essentially an adoptive reluctant father and his new little kid, going on adventures together. Like Star Wars draws so much inspiration from both Western movies and samurai movies. It was very much akin to Lone Wolf and Cub, which is a popular samurai story of a like an old, I think he's a Ronin at that point, who kind of finds this young child and trains him to be a samurai himself, kind of thing.
even has them in a goddamn cart,
Yeah,
It's just like,
exactly. Exactly. So I think it got away a little bit from that. Now I'm okay with that because I know kind of some of the stuff it's leading into. You got to set up things for Ahsoka Tano. You got to do set up things for the sequel trilogy of movies, right? Which honestly, this season made me actually like those sequel movies slightly more, because it explained a few things that were drastically missing from those stories. So like it had redeeming qualities. It was by no means a bad season of television. It just wasn't what people were expecting, maybe, right? But I still enjoyed it. I think like yes, there was like technically like an episode of Andor kind of snuck in there. Not that it had anything to do with Andor, but that kind of spy espionage, uh, spy thriller type episode that had nothing to do with Mandalorian or Grogu was in there. And then I think one thing we all agreed on when we had Fabienne on, it was um, that Grogu and Din Djarin should have reunited in this show. They shouldn't have been reunited going into the show, because that doesn't really lend to Grogu's decision not to train as a Jedi under Luke Skywalker. That decision should have a lot of weight to it. The fact that it seems to happen in the course of a half-hour episode doesn't make it seem as important when it really should have been. And it's really hard to judge from watching the show how much time has passed between him going with Luke Skywalker and him leaving Luke Skywalker. It looks like he was there for like, I don't know, a long weekend or something,
Yeah,
when
when in
he
reality they said it was about 2 years.
2 years, right? And that's just not addressed in the show and not shown very well in the show because Din Djarin doesn't look like he's aged because he's wearing a helmet the whole time, and Grogu doesn't look like he's aged because he's a little Yoda guy. So I think that's what people were most upset about was the lack of focus on the what made the Mandalorian great in general, to begin with. So, but I'm excited for new stuff, and I think that overall, it was still a fairly good season of television. There's still lots of stuff to like in it. Um, and I'm excited to see what happens in season 4 and as well as other upcoming shows. So this August, we have the Ahsoka Tano show coming out, and then there's also the Skeleton Crew show, which doesn't have a date necessarily, but it's probably going to be in the fall. With Jude Law, I think, is in it, and then next year we have Star Wars Acolyte, which is set in the time of the High Republic, I believe. Or maybe I think it was a High Republic, and set in the past, which is something I'm fairly interested in. And then there was another. Oh, Andor season 2 is also slated for next year as well. Um, and I just saw a thing recently saying that the last, I think, episode or 2 episodes of Andor season 2 will lead up to like 3 or 4 days before the events of Rogue One. So kind of cool. Leads right into it, kind of thing. So it sounds like season 2 will be the last season of Andor. Um, Not only that, but at the recent Star Wars celebration, it was announced that Dave Filoni, who obviously has had a huge hand in creating the Mandalorian, but also famously did the Clone Wars and Rebels animated shows, has finally got his own Star Wars feature that he was going to be directing, live action movie, which everyone is kind of guessing is going to be like a quote unquote Mandalorian Mandoverse movie, taking place with all the cast of characters from his various live action shows already. So a lot of Star Wars coming. And again, we talked a lot about this in our Mandalorian episode that is lost now. But the main concern I think a lot of people has, and whether it's justified or not because of how much power she actually has, a lot of people are worried about Kathleen Kennedy ruining what we have.
Well, I mean, like Mando happened under her watch, right? So
Sure.
there's hope. I know that there's talks that John
Favreau.
Favreau had almost quit because he was having issues with her vision, or I guess her interfering with his vision, really.
Right.
And so, but I guess they worked it out, which really just means dollars. Hey, there's money to be made. And
Yeah.
I'm like, so, I mean, I feel like that was the great equalizer. Like, hey, we can't not work together because there's too much money on the table.
Right.
So hopefully, she leaves it alone, lets it
Well,
be.
I think and it's not like she's the only studio executive who has ever done this, right? I mean, there's a whole like universe of YouTube videos out there pointing out the when the studio steps in and ruins a movie, right? So it's not like she's the only one who's ever done this. We're not singling her out necessarily, but if you look at the sequel trilogy of movies, um, you can very much see what's happening behind the scenes affecting the movie. And for me, I never want to see that, right? Like the most I want to see of that is to know that like, oh, this is a movie in the director's style. Like I just watched the new Ari Aster movie, Beau is Afraid. It it's a different movie than like Hereditary or Midsummer, but it is an Ari Aster movie. Denis Villeneuve, who did the Blade Runner 2049 and the new Dune movie, those movies feel like his movies. And that's the most I want the movie affected by the behind the scenes stuff. You know what I mean? But like when you have a movie uh one of our favorite movies of all time, the Dark Tower movie. Um you can see in a movie like that the studio giving notes, right? Like, oh, it's we can't have this weird, we can't have this weird backstory to Roland. He's just got to be cool instantly, and let's cut these side characters out, and let's just make it about him and Jake and the Man in Black, and that's like kind of it. And Dark Tower's just out in the corner. Like the movie was terrible, um, and it just has the studio's fingerprints all over it. And I think that's really what happened with the Mandalorian and Grogu teaming up in Book of Boba Fett. That seems like a studio move. Now we don't know for sure, right? Because we weren't there. But if there's a movie or if there's a new property coming out called the Book of Boba Fett that you're maybe not sure like how good it is or how many people are going to watch it, but you have this other property that does really well, you might be like, you know what? Why don't we just put the people from that other show into this show? Now people will want to watch this show because they have to, right? They have to watch it to find out what happens. Or even if they don't watch it right now when the Book of Boba Fett is coming out, they will have to watch it at least a little bit before they watch Mandalorian season 3. That seems like a studio move. It doesn't make sense narratively to do that because it's literally a different story. Grogu had no part in the end of Book of Boba Fett as far as like saving Boba Fett, really, aside from like calming down the Rancor. But that could have not easily not been in the show at all. Um, and yeah, you could have Din Djarin show up. That makes sense. He knows Boba Fett, and Boba Fett needs extra muscle. Cool, that totally makes sense. But why did we have 2 episodes of Din Djarin learning to use the dark saber and reuniting with Grogu while he's training with Luke Skywalker, and Grogu making this huge decision in his story in a show that's not about them? That seems like a studio move to me. And I'm just hoping that in these future movies, shows, whatnot, she lets the people who know Star Wars and who know these characters do what they want to do, kind of thing. That's my hope.
So my hope is that they are seeing it because now Dave Filoni finally is getting a film, which is
Mhm.
I think what a lot of Star Wars fans have been wanting for a while. So that to me shows at least it's going in the right direction.
Right.
So hopefully they are listening, and I hope he kills it. I mean, everything else he's done with Star Wars has been great. I just don't want this to be the one exception where
Right.
like he fails. But I just hope it's gonna be good. I don't know. I haven't read anything, and I kind of don't want to, so I don't know in what direction the movie's gonna go. But I'm assuming you're right. I'm assuming it's gonna be from the stuff he had on Clone Wars, probably maybe like finishing up Ahsoka's story, probably throwing in, some of the older clones that we loved. That was one of the great things about that show, man. Like you take the clones who like didn't really mean anything in the movies, and they're just like
They were
dying left
just
and right.
CGI background characters,
CGI,
essentially.
and then you come and you start caring about individual clones.
Mhm.
They start getting individual names. They start having individual looks. Anakin having actual like friendships with them, and then like you
Well, I
you
mean,
caring,
Anakin's
when one of
story,
them dies.
yeah, and Anakin's story, like if you just watch the prequel trilogy, the episodes 1, 2, and 3, Anakin's fall to the dark side seems like it comes out of nowhere. It seems like, a Daenerys Targaryen in last season of Game of Thrones, right? But when you watch the Clone Wars, which again, I have my complaints about that show, mostly regarding the uh, the very young audience that it was going after, as well as the animation style. But if you watch all of it, like you see hints of him falling to the dark side, and you also see him as a character grow. Like him and the things that happened with Ahsoka causing him to lose faith in the Jedi Order, and causing this rift between Obi-Wan and him. And you see a lot more of Obi-Wan's character growth too. Like he was almost willing to give up being a Jedi himself to go be with Bo-Katan's sister. I forget what her name is. But it's just it was that show did a great job of filling the gaps in between movies where the movies were lacking. And I think that's why the Mandalorian has also done a fairly good job of that, but on a smaller scale. Now on a larger scale with some of the other stuff that's happening. So I hope a good leader will see the talent that they have, being John Favreau and Dave Filoni, and a good leader will recognize that and let them do what they do. A bad leader will still recognize the good stuff, but also they're like, well, yes, they've tapped into something excellent, but maybe I could make it better too. But and that's when we see these little like things where she inserts herself into these projects. So I just hope there's less of that in the future and more of just letting Dave Filoni and John Favreau, who know and love the Star Wars universe and understand what the fans are looking for. Hopefully, they'll let them kind of
Yeah,
like,
or even Bryce Dallas Howard too, man. Like
yeah.
her episodes are great too. Like
I think
give her
she's
stuff.
supposed to get a movie too. I believe.
Nice, dude. I'd be excited. Like the few episodes that she did on I think it was season two, right? I don't remember if it was season
I
one
think
or
she's
two.
done one episode in every season. I believe.
But it was like I just remember I was like, dude, that was like one of my favorite episodes. And I looked at it, I was like, holy shit, like she did that. That was fucking awesome.
Yeah, yeah. She
I
she
think the
did.
one she did in the village that was almost like the Seven Samurai. I believe that
Yeah,
was hers. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. The one with the ATST Walker. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was hers, and it was awesome. The hands down, I think my favorite episode of that season. It was so good. But yeah, I hope that they keep letting that kind of stuff happen. Now let's talk a little bit about video games, right? Because Star Wars is not limited to just movies now. Jedi Survivor is out now. You and I have both played it a little bit, and we won't really ruin any major story beats or anything in it. But what's your impression of the game so far?
So we were talking about this yesterday when we were playing Magic, but when I played the first one, I remember getting stuck a lot and going, "Man, this game is fucking hard." Like I can't believe it. And then I was like, "Oh, I guess it makes sense. He's a Jedi who's starting off. He's not that powerful. He was taught as a Padawan, but like now he's trying to learn on his own, so it
Yeah,
makes sense." And now playing the second one, I was like, "Oh, this game isn't as hard as I remember." But I think you brought up the point, like, dude, we were playing Elden Ring in between.
yeah,
It's like so Elden Ring was really hard. I'm like, oh, that's probably a really fucking fair point. Like we had some quick Jedi training of our own to do. And so this one there's still some bosses where I'm like, I'm coming back to this later. I'm gonna go level up before I come back to this. And I think you're kind of meant to. Like you run into some stuff early where you're like, oh man, like yeah, I don't think I'm meant to do this right now. Let me go level up and I'll be back to it. But it's not as hard as I remember. But I've been enjoying it. It's been really
Also, I will
fun.
say you start off with like all your force, for the most part, all your force powers from the beginning one. So it's not like you really have to relearn stuff that you've already had, which
Yeah.
is always kind of like a lame part of like a sequel games, where it's like, oh, we can't, we can't start you off super powerful, right? We have to come up with a reason why you've lost some of your powers, and then you have to like go through the tutorial. Like this one, you start off, you have double jump, and you have the two bladed lightsaber, and you have a lot of your extra little force moves and stuff like that. But you just upgrade them even further as you go through.
But yeah, so far it's been really fun. I've been enjoying it. I like the story so far as it's gone. I know our friend who's been on the show, Madeline Rue, not so much, and I gotta respect it. She's written Star Wars stuff,
Yep.
so she's not so much of a fan. But so far, maybe my opinion will change maybe as we go along. But so far, I've been really enjoying it. But I will say, for the most part, on Twitter, everyone I see who's played and beat it said that they really enjoyed it. So
Yeah, I think it's overall it's a good addition to like Star Wars video games. It's fun. It's kind of like a mix between like a very very watered down Souls like game, like Elden Ring or Dark Souls or what have you, like very light, but it's definitely not the hack and slash game that the Force Unleashed was, right? Um, it looks cool. The exploration's cool. It's got a bunch of Tomb Raider type elements where you have to unlock a new ability to go back to an area and explore it more, kind of thing. So really really fun. And the story so far is interesting. It has some like ties to the High Republic stuff, which is kind of cool. Um,
I've never played those games, man. I've never.
well, like so I never played like you're talking about Knights of the Old Republic kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's more just like harkening back to before the Galactic Civil War times, like 200 years before, kind of thing.
and
With
I mean, the little that I've read, I feel like the Jedi's were a lot stronger, or at least Force users were a lot stronger back then, right, or something like that. Like they had
I
like
don't know if it
crazy
was even
abilities.
if it was I don't know if that's canon or not, but it's they were definitely treated differently. Where by the time we get to the Galactic Civil War and like the fall of the Republic, which is the Skywalker saga takes place in, um, basically the Jedi were more like they were basically knights, like not just knights in name only. They were out there being peacekeepers of the galaxy, and they were much more involved. And by the time they got to the Skywalker saga era, they were a lot of them were reduced more to like politician and bureaucrats, right? Which is what Anakin's always like frustrated with, is that they're not out there getting their hands dirty anymore. They're sitting back and talking to senators and shit like that. So it's much more of like the high fantasy take on like what it means to be a hero, kind of thing. So that's kind of exciting stuff. Now there's some new movies, or I'm sorry, new video games that are in the works. Um, there's going to be Star Respawn um, who worked on the uh, Star Wars Jedi series, which is what we're talking about, Jedi Survivor. They're also working on an as of yet untitled Star Wars first person shooter, which is kind of cool. Because Respawn, um, they've definitely had their hand in first person shooters. They've done uh, well. First of all, they're owned by Electronic Arts, which is EA, but they're the ones who do Apex Legends, and so they definitely know how to make a good shooter. They've also done they did Titanfall and Medal of Honor, so that could be a really fun, interesting game. We don't know when that's coming out, It was only, the project itself was only revealed last year.
So
Um,
it's not going to be like Battlefront 3 or anything like that.
I don't think so. I don't think it is, but we don't know. Like, there's not enough information out on it. They've also talked about doing like a strategy game. Um, don't know much about that, but more games from Respawn, I'm all for, because I overall, like, they have a pretty solid track record of video games. There's also another game called Star Wars Eclipse that was announced back in 2021. It's from the developer of Heavy Rain and Detroit Become Human. Did you play either of those games?
No, I've seen people like I've watched a couple of people on Twitch play a little bit, and I've seen like videos on it. It looks
Yeah,
cool. It looks, I mean,
it's kind of like a
it just reminds me of like Dungeon. What was it, Dragon's Lair or whatever? Like you just hit the right button at the right time to continue the story or
yeah,
something.
it's kind of like a branching narrative kind of thing, where you just like, or like a moving, what do they call it, like an interactive novel or something.
Yeah,
It's
like
kind
I
of
didn't
like
play
that.
or was it Quarry, which I didn't play either, but I wanted to. I just haven't gotten around to it
Yeah,
yet.
Life is Strange is a similar version, which I could be excited for that. It's supposed to take place in the High Republic era, but in an uncharted region of the Outer Rim, which is kind of cool. So there should be some newer faces, newer, you know, aliens and stuff like that. So that'll be a fun one too. Now you kind of brought this up, but Knights of the Old Republic, they're actually making a remake of that, which has been like, you know, they've been hinting at that for a long time. Um, they did recently say that the project's been delayed indefinitely, so we don't know exactly when that's going to happen. BioWare, you know, is a great company, but they have a history of delaying stuff. So hopefully we'll get that eventually. And then I think the biggest one that I've heard of is Ubisoft's open world Star Wars game, um, which they're working on with Disney and Lucasfilm Games, as well as Massive Entertainment.
Yeah, I think on
Which
that one you're just a vapor farmer on a Tatooine.
vapor farm simulator, moisture
Yeah,
farm
that's
simulator.
it. You're just a moisture
Yeah,
farm. Yeah.
yeah. Now, Ubisoft famously did the Assassin's Creed games, which
I've only played one, and I only finished it because I started it, but I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
it,
And it was okay. The gameplay's all right. I mean, hey man, anyone who likes Assassin's Creed, that good for you. But like, it wasn't for me. And
yeah,
then when I tried to read about the story, and I'm like, oh, it wasn't just me. The story doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, cool.
yeah.
That's
The story aside, I will say that Assassin's Creed generally has done a good job of like creating a big open world, which is cool. The only problem is that um it's the way they structure the games can be a little whack, where you kind of like run into like side quest fatigue, where it's like, there's a million side quests, none of them really matter, and like, it's just like you're collecting this, go here, collect this, go here, collect. So I just hope it's not that. Now, Massive Entertainment is a sub studio of theirs, that they did the Division games. Tom Clancy's The Division, which those were pretty fun games. Maybe, I didn't play them as long as I played some other games, but I had a good time with them. So hopefully between those two studios, they can make a pretty interesting open world Star Wars game.
I think I like my moisture farm idea better.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just you just play as some normal dude in Star Wars, and you're just like, man, fucking the other day there was a fucking guy with a laser sword. I didn't want anything to do with that, so I just walked in the other direction.
Fucking Tuscan Raiders just came over and took my wife for no reason. I don't know why
Yeah,
they just
yeah,
fucking did it.
that's so mean. But yeah, I don't know. I think how do you feel Star Wars games have been recently, and are you excited about these new ones coming out?
So I enjoyed Battlefront. I played that a
I
lot.
hated Battlefront.
I
I
liked it.
I really enjoyed Battlefront 2 on PlayStation 2 or whatever it was.
I've been enjoying this Jedi series. I kind of miss what was the it'd be cool if they brought this character back. They will never do it, but it was from Nintendo 64 and
Shadows of the Empire,
that was the Han Solo basically rip
Dash
off.
Rendar.
Yeah.
You talking about Dash Rendar?
Dude, like
The
they'll never do it, or do it,
dude.
or do it, 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 or
Oh,
do it, or do it, or do it, or
oh
do
my
it,
god.
or do it,
I'm
or
gonna
do it,
mute
or
you.
do it.
Unplug your mic and plug it back in again. Christian's microphone goes crazy sometimes and starts repeating everything. So
Better?
yes.
Like, though that game, it'd be great. I don't know if they'll do it, but
Yeah, I don't think they will because that was like one of the big books of the what are they called now? The non-canon Star Wars Legacy or what Legends. Star Wars
Legends.
Legends books. But man, that what a game that was. And apparently so in Jedi Fallen or Jedi Survivor, the game we're playing, there is an outfit called the Outrider, which is the name of his knockoff Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's the Dash Rendar outfit. So there is an outfit for him in Jedi Survivor, which I'm pretty juiced to try to find.
See, right now I got Cal dressed up like a version of Cody, but very 80s out. Like it
Nice.
it has like the hair and the headband from the kid from Caravan of Courage, I think it was called. I don't know if
Oh
you.
yeah, the Ewoks movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw
So
that in there. I'm like, ooh, this is totally the Ewoks kid. I love that someone's at least out there having fun with some of these properties that are like completely lost. You know what I
I
mean?
haven't seen that movie since I was a kid, but I just remember there's like this giant hairy monster that scared the shit out of me as a kid.
Yeah, I think they were all on Disney Plus now. They're actually on there.
Oh, nice. I
Yeah.
gotta rewatch it.
Um, but yeah, man, it's like I think overall I'm excited to see where the video games go. I think I'm feeling overall pretty confident in the future of Star Wars. Yeah, the sequel trilogy was not exactly what I wanted, you know. Force Awakens, I enjoyed very much, but I think it was mostly running on the nostalgia, you know. Um, and then the other two movies, they had their own problems, but there was bits of cool stuff in each one of them. It just, I think overall, series as a whole kind of fell flat because again, they didn't know what to do with it, and there wasn't a unified vision. The fact that we have John Favreau and now Dave Filoni, who who are kind of playing that unified vision for the Star Wars universe, I have high hopes for the movie and TV side of it. The video
Yeah,
game,
I don't. I mean, I don't think that the Force Awakens movies were perfect. I think they needed a lot of work, and I think they did, Finn way fucking nasty. But
yeah,
I don't. I actually kind of enjoyed what they did with Luke, man. And I know that's probably gonna piss off a lot of people.
hmm,
Like I know it pissed off Seamus when he turned on his lightsaber and he considered for a moment striking down Kylo Ren. But it's like, first off, who the fuck is his dad? It's fucking Darth Vader, man.
yeah,
Like, as much as you don't want to be like your parents, you are part of their fucking DNA. There's gonna be some of that in
right,
you. But not only that, like he realized what he done. He's like, what the fuck am I thinking? Like
yeah,
he realized right away, like this is like what is wrong with me? Like this is a mistake. And also like he's not gonna be the bright-eyed ideal farm kid who wanted to go on adventures. Like people grow and they change, man. I'm not the same fucking person I was 5 years
right.
ago. Why would he expect him as an old man to be the same as he was like as a teenager? Like, no, he's gonna be different. And
Well, I think
but like I didn't have issues with that. Like I actually
I
kind of enjoyed it.
me neither. Like, as far as the issues go in those movies, I mean, we don't have to rehash them completely, but you know, that was not the glaring issues that I saw in that. Um, because people are like, oh, well, Luke is like he spared Darth Vader. He would never do that. He would never attack. I'm like, well, first of all, you guys didn't watch all of either, Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, because both times he was fighting to kill Darth Vader. He was, you know what I mean? Now, it was in a moment of reflection that he realized that this is his father and that he could save him and that he still senses good in him. Like that's when he stops, but there, and it's when he chops off his hand and sees that he's got a robot hand just like Luke and that he is just like his father and he's going down the same road as his father. That's when he stops and says, "No, I'm not going to fight him anymore." So, like, to, for people to argue that he would never do some, start to do something rash, that would be out of character for Luke Skywalker. That is the character of Luke Skywalker, is that even though he may start down the wrong path, he will catch himself and ultimately go down the right path. So like that was never a problem for me, but there was just, lack of focus and like the whole thing with the director's drama, again, going back to not wanting to see the fingerprints of the studio in the movie. Like there was the Last Jedi, which people did not like as much, right? And that's everyone's personal taste. But then there's the studio's reaction to that movie, which is getting rid of Ryan Johnson, bringing back J.J. Abrams, and them trying to ignore what happened in that movie, which then you get the rise of Skywalker. So like that's studio politics bleeding into the actual story, and that's what I was not a fan of. But I think there was good moments in those movies, and I think people are foolish to ignore those in light of all the other stuff.
Dude, the
But
fight scene with when Kylo Ren and oh my god, I'm forgetting her name. Uh,
Ray,
and Ray, when they're fighting all the red guys, they weren't the Praetorian, were they? I think they were the
they're like
Praetorian.
the new version of the Praetorian Guards.
Like that was some great like fighting. They did new stuff. It wasn't just the regular lightsaber fights that we had seen before,
Yeah,
and they're like helping each other out, like throwing each other's lightsabers and stuff. Like
right.
it was great.
There's good stuff in there for sure, and there's some interesting takes on the Force and what the Force can do. I think a lot of it just came from not having a unified vision, and I think that now that we have Dave Filoni and John Favreau acting as like a unified vision, at least for the next several projects, I think we're in a better place. So, if I'm to kind of consolidate my view on the state of Star Wars, I'm hopeful, and I think, rebellions are built on hope, you know,
We gotta have hope. We have to.
there's, isn't that what she said in Rogue One, which was like totally not earned at all. I'm just like, why are you all about the rebellion? Anyway, I like that movie, but there were still problems with that one too. There's always some problems with Star Wars, But how do you feel about the overall state of Star Wars?
I have hope, man. I'm excited. I'm gonna keep an open mind.
Yep.
And again, man, like for me, like Star Wars is like pizza. Even bad pizza is still
Every
pizza
once in a while,
to
you get a pizza that gives you the shits,
me.
and that's okay because it's not going to stop you from eating pizza because every once in a while you have a fucking great pizza.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you get a little fucking heartburn.
Even on its worst days, pizza's pizza. So I think that's the honestly the healthiest way to look at things now, and something that I've tried to adapt when looking at movies critically is like, sometimes it's okay to just like something because you like something. I like Star Wars, even if every once in a while Star Wars doesn't like me. It's it's like at the end of the day, I will still rewatch some of these movies that I was not a huge fan of because I love Star Wars and I love the world, and it's hope. It gives me hope for what's to come, kind of thing. So, but let us know down in the comments what you think of the state of Star Wars. Is it headed in the right direction, or are we headed down a darker path? Let us know. We like hearing from you guys. Make sure to hit us up on all the social medias. while you're down there, click the like and subscribe on the YouTubes or follow on all the audio podcast platforms. We do appreciate that. It helps us out a lot. Been doing this show for 10 years, and we wouldn't keep doing it if there wasn't at least a small chunk of you guys out there who kept listening, kept watching. So thank you guys for the past 10 years. This started off as like a drunk talking outside of a bar idea, and it's amazing that it's gone this far and we haven't killed each other yet.
Also, make sure and go watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yes, yeah, go see it. We'll probably talk about that maybe on our next episode.
Yeah, for sure.
So come back next week and check that out. Christian, thanks for being the BD1 to my Cal Kestis.
There we go.
And to all the nerds out there, remember, you're not alone. You're with friends. This is Nerds with Friends. May the force be with you.